Fresh from the showcase here at SwissWatchExpo, we're debuting another series of the Panerais that we have in our inventory. And the reason that we keep going over Panerais is because they have so many different types and they're so much fun to collect. There's so many folks that call themselves Paneristis because they have 4, 5, 10 Panerais in their collection, maybe more. So I always aspired to be a Paneristi, but that's not quite happening yet. We have some very interesting models that I wanted to talk about here today. One of the ones that I have on my wrist is my absolutely all-time favorite watch. It's the PAN 00643, the 643 model. And what it is it's got a DLC coating, much like a ceramic coating on the outside of the watch itself. It's very simplistic. It's the original Radiomir. So it has the convex crown, and it also has the wire loops for where you attach your straps. All original, all what the original essence of the Radiomir Panerai was. And it's a manual wind watch, so it's absolutely my favorite. The interesting thing about this one is it has a hobnail of Paris, or a Parisian, what I call a Parisian hobnail dial. There are probably some people that would like to kill me for saying that, but that is the essence of what that dial is. And it looks like a waffle pattern. So it's got little the raised indentions all through it that look like a little bit like a pyramid, but I think it looks more like a waffle pattern. And also what's interesting about this dial is even though it's black, it can reflect a little bit of green because of the way that the anti-reflective coating on the crystal shows the dial. It took me forever to realize that that dial actually wasn't green, it was black. But that's because it also takes into effect the illumination on each one of the painted numbers and indices. They're also a little bit of a light green, a whitish light green. It's a very interesting color. But it's very simplistic. The 12, 3, 6, and 9 markers are there, unlike a lot of the other Panerais where they have a date complication or something taking up one or the other 3 or the 9 or both. So this is just a very simple piece. It's a very thin piece. It doesn't weigh a lot. It's a 45 millimeter watch, and it's extraordinarily easy for me to wear. I just think it complements everything. This is the watch I would wear absolutely every day if I could get my hands on one of these. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the other 3 that we have here. The 3 that we have here are a Due, a Chronograph, and a Radiomir 1940 in gold, rose gold to be specific. Now, the Radiomir 1940 has the sandwich dial, and we've talked about this a little bit before. It's got the in-house movement because it does have the crystal case back as well. Now, the reason that I brought this one out is because I wanted to compare it to the Radiomir that I have on my wrist right now. You can see that the size difference is huge. The 42 millimeter versus the 45 millimeter. It's a large difference between the 2 pieces. So keep in mind that if you love the idea of having a Panerai, but you always are concerned about how thick they are and how large they are, this Radiomir 1940 will do the trick every time. And interestingly enough, most of the pieces that they have come in gold like this, in the rose gold, come in this particular style. The Luminor is not found as much with that particular combination. So that is the Radiomir 1940. But let's move on quickly to the Chronograph. This is really interesting. Panerai doesn't do a lot of chronograph movements. Panerai mainly enjoys the simplicity of things. And with this particular watch, it's called a Daylight Series. The reason that it's called the Daylight Series is because in 1996, Sylvester Stallone made a movie called Daylight. That movie was the inspiration behind the name of the Daylight series of Panerai. One other little small note, anytime you see a white dial, you see them, and they may actually say Slytech at the bottom of them. And there again, that's Sylvester Stallone, his influence of the white dial on the Slytech Panerai. So the Daylight is the movie, the Slytech is the inspiration behind the white dial. And this chronograph is actually called a Daylight. Now, the funny thing about the dial on this one is it has a very unique patina. It's more of an orange. It's not found all that much on the Panerais. And in fact, actually, this chronograph is pretty rare. There are a lot of people who like Panerai but don't necessarily have a strong interest in the chronograph movement. But the people who do have a strong interest in the chronograph movement specifically are interested in this model because of all the little unique things that it has. First of all, the name, the daylight name, but also, secondly, that orange patina that was created to make those indices look the way that they do. And then, of course, the layout of the chronograph dial. It's very clean and unique to Panerai, the way that they are simply laid out through the dial. And of course, unlike other Panerai, this one has a date function that is between the 4 and 5. Just a lot of different unique things about this. But then when you move on to the crown guard, most Panerais on the Luminor series, the crown guard opens from the top to the bottom, or from the 12 to the 6. The interesting thing on the chronograph is it's completely opposite, and it actually moves. It's a very small piece that moves to the top from the 6, so from the 6 to the 12, and it's a lot smaller on the cam side, and you'll notice that. The reason is, when they designed the pushers for this watch, they're very close and tied into the crown guard as well. So they had a little bit of real estate to work with and a lot of different features to incorporate. But what I find interesting about this particular crown guard is that the manipulation of the crown guard seems to be a little bit easier for me, and it's a little bit more solid. It's a very strange thing how that works, and they were able to incorporate that design. Now, it's just a standard chronograph. Obviously, Panerai used a base movement ETA and then a Valjoux movement, and then built their models on top of it for all their chronograph features. It does have one other interesting feature. It has a corrector here on the case, which is something that you don't find on other Panerais either. So this is a really unique item, and it's absolutely in phenomenal condition. There again, the value story behind purchasing watches from SwissWatchExpo, especially for timepieces like this. You save some money over the price new. We've got a lot of pieces that people are just now realizing even existed in the world, because remember that Panerai will only make a certain series and a certain number per year, and they were very hard to find in the beginning. Now, these are in absolutely excellent condition. We're trying to get everything in boxes with all the tools and that type of thing when we acquire these, which is something that's also very difficult to do. Now, I want to move on to the Due, which is something that came out. This is 2021, so this watch appeared about 5 years ago initially. And the Due is a thinner piece. The idea behind it was to be able to wear it much like the Radiomir that I'm wearing, so that it fits up underneath a shirt cuff and is easier to wear. It's not so tall and bulky and heavy. This actually happens to be a Luminor Due. So it functions like your typical Luminor. It has the crown guard. It even has the reg and then the trademark. So the patent pending mark and the trademark part, just like all of the the Luminor 1950s. This watch mocks the painted dial of the Daylight series. It's not a sandwich dial. Each one of these numbers that's on the dial is actually painted. It's got a very unique, almost an eggshell color on the white dial. It can go a little bit silver. It can go really bright white. It has a multitude of personalities. And of course, it glows just like anything else, having the luminescent glow dots around. It'll glow just like any Panerai that you would ever imagine. Plus, it has a date feature and function, and it has a sub-second dial. It also has this unique blue strap. Now, one thing about the Due that I always want people to understand. The Due, although it is a Panerai, I don't suggest it being worn in the water as much as you would a standard Panerai, because in fact, these are not rated to the same depth of diving that the original Luminor is. They're a little bit less, not a whole lot less. You can still swim in them and that type of thing. You won't have any trouble with them, but they're certainly not the original diving watches that you would expect from Panerai. They're a little bit more elegant and a little less tool watch. So do be careful of that. But the straps change very similarly to the other Panerais. You also can get the tools to help change them out. There are a multitude of different straps, and remember with Panerai, you can actually order all of the different colors directly from Panerai.com. You can get the rubber straps, or what they call caoutchouc. It took me forever. When I used to work at an AD, I had a fellow from Italy come in, and he didn't speak a lot of English, and I had seen that word, but I wasn't sure how to pronounce it, and I noticed that it was on the strap, and I kept seeing that word over and over again. And when he was trying to ask me if I had one of the Panerais, he kept saying caoutchouc. And it didn't register in my brain until I realized he meant the rubber strap. And that's when I realized that's what the caoutchouc means on all the rubber straps. So that's just a little bit of fun language history for you. Panerai is a lot of fun. You'll enjoy these. The summertime's coming up. You'll be able to wear them anytime, anywhere, for any reason. If you have any questions, give us a call here at SwissWatchExpo. Obviously, be sure to ring the bell, subscribe, leave us comments, and any questions that you may have, we will be happy to answer.